All right, live. Okay, this video is going to be about dreadlocks, which are not misshaped or weirdly shaped, even though that's the title. It's simply a video where I'm trying to say, enjoy the process. The beautiful thing about freeform natural dreadlocks is that you never know how it's going to happen, where it's going to go, what shape it's going to take, how they're going to form. There are times, depending on the people and the climate and their type of hair, where it starts to form, but then it breaks up. It's a process. It's a lengthy process at that, depending on the type of hair that you have, the texture, the products you use, etc. So I just want to show you guys a few of my dreadlocks, simply because maybe some of you will find value in it. I know that people, especially at the beginning stages in the first year or two, are sometimes discouraged. They don't look like they want them to look. I mean, some people who enter this freeform natural journey are fully prepared, and other people might be discouraged. So I suppose this video is not to show anything off, but to simply show that there is such a thing even after nearly a decade of growing natural dreadlocks. You can still have results which, in some people's opinion, would be less than desired. I don't know. So I'll start with the more obvious one. Okay, this dreadlock right here is the result of a few that were forming together. And because of that, there's still these weak spots here, which open up like an eye. I don't know if you can see. Here, let's do it this way. Opening up. It's a dreadlock which started to lock up with the rest. It's locked here and it's locked there, but it's not locked in the middle. So there's a good chance that this part right here, this weaker part right here will eventually simply sever itself and then either fall off or get swallowed up into that dreadlock. I don't know, and that's precisely the point. I don't know what will happen with my hair, but I'm very much a part of the journey in the sense of I'm not worried about it. I realize that this is part of the process, even after 9 years or a bit more now of growing this hair and letting it do its own thing. I'm letting it do its own thing, even if it seems to be a little weak in certain places. I know that there are some people who use a thread and needle. Some people use a crochet hook. To each his own. So a couple more weird dreadlocks, and again, I say that in a very tongue-in-cheek kind of way. Let's see, let's see, let's see. What do I have here? Do I have any? All right, okay. So there's this one, which is full of ridges and different, it's very wavy. This is something where, again, there's hair here that hasn't locked up yet, and I'm fine with that. I'm cool with that. There's nothing that I can do about it or that I would want to do about it. There's this dreadlock, which has pieces hanging off of it, and this too has different areas where it's a little weaker. And there's this one, which again is very wavy. You can see this is the result of the hair kinking up and looping. So when I was growing my first set, which I didn't know I was doing at the time because I simply stopped combing and I was rinsing with water. When I was 18 and these loops and kinks and bumps started to happen, I had no idea what was going on. Only later on in life, 8 years later or so, when I decided that I'm going to go the natural route and grow out my hair naturally, that's when I sort of welcomed it. But it was a little disconcerting to watch my hair go through that process. When I knew that that's something that's meant to happen, I was much more prepared. Now, there is nothing that can prepare you specifically for your process because it is yours, and personally, you never know how it's going to go down. Usually, more often than not, neglect natural freeform dreadlocks are a lot flatter because of different reasons, because you don't create them, and because you sleep on them, and because in some cases you have them tied up, in some cases you have, well, different people have different things, but a lot of times natural dreadlocks will be flatter. I mean, I have a few that are thicker. These two are growing into what will eventually, I think, be one long dread. But right now they're still split apart. This is again the result of this locking up and me not separating, but simply letting it do its thing. And so slowly but surely, it's locking up, and eventually, I think it will be a larger one. There's different ways of taking care of it. If you do want it to lock up, if you don't want it to lock up, like I said, I maintain only by separation. Occasionally, I'll usually let them congo up. The reason that I don't stop separating altogether is because I told my wife that I will not have, uh, 3 or 4 mega dreads. She asked me when I consulted her on whether or not I should do this, and she said, just don't let it become that because, well, for her reasons, right? And I said, that's okay, I don't want that either. But I do, to the best of my ability, as far as what I want to be, I do let it simply congo up in some areas. Um, okay, let's see. Okay, so over here, this is regular straight hair, and it looks like I'm a little bald here, but that's okay. I have a recessive kind of hairline. Let's see if there are any other ones. So I have a few dreads that are forming back there that are still in the beginning process of knotting up. Let's see. So look, as I was saying here, this one is also starting to lock up together. These are two separate dreads, which I'm letting them congo up. And these two are very right at the end. It's still regular hair. I have a few weirder dreadlocks, and I have a few more seemingly formed dreadlocks. It's something that's very, very unique to each hair type and each individual. So it's impossible to say how it's going to transpire with your hair, with your natural method. If you're going for uniform dreads, if you're going for something where you won't be going through too many changes, although that's almost inevitable, then maybe the natural neglect method, right, is not for you. Free-forming is free-forming. It happens when it does it freely on its own. And you can sort of manipulate it in the beginning or in the end or at any time during the process, but there are those who choose to do that. There are those who do not. Let's see if I can find a couple of more. Here, there's this one, which might be swallowed up here. So the shapes that these dreadlocks take, the shapes that I have are pretty unique because they have everything to do with my story, right? With the story of my hair. And here's another one which is congoing up. And I mentioned that I have a few areas where it's a little bit weaker, and I'm fully prepared for certain parts of my dreadlocks to fall off at some point. It's happened several times where a thinner, weaker area towards the end has gotten. Let's see if I can find one here. This dread right here is very, it's pretty thick over here. It's starting to thin out a little here, and over here it gets thick again. So I'm fully prepared for the fact that this part right here might fall off at some point, and I'm okay with that. When it's happened several times where a weaker part got too weak and naturally fell off of the dreadlock, of the strand. And should that happen, what I do is I will usually bury it as soon as I can, either right then and there if I'm next to the earth, or I'll keep it and I'll bury it later. I believe that the hair is part of my body. And even though originally the Nazarite dreads were to be burned at the altar at the completion or fulfillment of the Nazarite vow, I don't plan on burning my hair. I choose to return it to the earth that it came from, so to speak. So if I have a dreadlock that gets weak and sort of falls off, a part of it falls off, I'll bury it in the earth. I have a few buried in different places, in a couple of different countries, actually. I'm going to come to the end of this video now. These were just a couple of dreadlocks that are a little weird, and I showed you a few of the shapes. I'm obviously not going to go through every one of them. I just wanted to show you guys that there is such a thing as, even after 9 years, having weaker parts, having thinner parts, having parts that aren't fully locked up yet. It has to do with, it's very subjective. It's a very subjective experience. and it's completely dependent on your process, your journey, your hair, your climate, your products, blah, 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 blah. It completely depends on you. No two freeform natural dreadlocks look the same. And that's because everyone's different, and that's the way it's supposed to be, I think, if you're going that route. And like I've said before, I'm not an elitist of any kind. There are different ways of attaining dreadlocks, different reasons for getting dreadlocks. They are all permissible as far as I'm concerned. I don't consider one form to be higher than the next. For some people, it's about self-expression and nonconformism or conformity. And for other people, it's about the natural spiritual journey of letting it do its own thing and nothing more. Anything on that spectrum works. Anything. And people could tell you this or that. That's fine. That's what they think. This is what I think. It's all good. Don't be afraid of the process. Don't busy yourself too much with the ugly stage, with times when they don't look the way you want them to look, because eventually, if you're in this long term, it's something that you are going to have to embrace and take on as a part of the process. I can definitely say that I personally enjoyed every step of the way, and I'm currently still enjoying even the parts of my hair that are weaker or thinner. I'm not I don't feel bad about that. I realize that hair is just hair. It's physical, it's material, and it's thinner and weaker sometimes. So I have no problem with that. It's not something that I'm looking to fix. There's nothing to fix. It's simply letting it do its thing. And like I said, sometimes, really, really seldom, I'll grab one or two and I'll separate them just so they don't combo up into a huge dreadlock. So that's all I want to say. This was a video on a couple of my weirder dreads and a few thoughts on the process of naturally locking hair. And I think I covered basically what I wanted to say in this video. Let's have a wonderful day. God bless.